Hey, welcome back to English Podcast and Tech. I am Charles. Quick question for you today. Have you ever heard the word bug used to describe a problem in a computer program? Programmers say it all the time. There is a bug in the code. I need to fix this bug. Today, you will learn exactly where that word comes from, and the answer might surprise you. This is episode 6 of The People Who Built the Digital World. Today we meet Grace Hopper, a woman who joined the Navy, programmed one of the first computers in history, and changed forever the way humans talk to machines. Let's begin. Let's learn today's keywords first. The first word is compiler. A compiler is a special program that translates instructions written by a human into a language that a computer can understand. Before Grace Hopper, programmers had to write instructions in pure machine code, extremely difficult and slow. The compiler changed everything. Repeat after me. Compiler. The second word is debug. To debug means to find and fix errors in a computer program. Every programmer spends hours every week debugging their code, looking for the small mistake that breaks everything. Repeat after me. Debug. The third word is naval officer. A naval officer is a person who holds rank and authority in a country's navy, the military force that operates at sea. Grace Hopper served as a naval officer for most of her life. She retired with the rank of Rear Admiral, one of the highest ranks in the United States Navy. Repeat after me. Naval officer. The fourth word is syntax. Syntax means the set of rules that defines how words and symbols must be arranged correctly in a language, including programming languages. Grace Hopper believed that programming syntax should look like normal English, not like complicated mathematical symbols. Repeat after me. Syntax. The fifth word is standardize. To standardize means to make something follow the same rules or format everywhere, so it works consistently. Grace Hopper worked to standardize computer languages so that different machines from different companies could run the same programs. Repeat after me. Standardize. The sixth word is prototype. We learned this word in episode 2, but let's remember it. A prototype is the first working version of something used for testing. Grace Hopper worked on some of the very first computer prototypes ever built in the United States. Repeat after me. Prototype. The seventh word is relay. A relay is an electrical switch, a small mechanical component that can open or close an electrical circuit. Early computers used thousands of relays. They were mechanical, noisy, and sometimes, as we will learn today, insects got stuck inside them. Repeat after me. Relay. The eighth word is legacy, another word we have used before. A legacy is what a person leaves behind for the future. Grace Hopper's legacy includes the compiler, modern programming languages, and the word bug. Not bad for one lifetime. Repeat after me. Legacy. 8 words. Compiler, debug, naval officer, syntax, standardize, prototype, relay, legacy. Now let's hear her story. The year is 1906. In New York City, a girl is born. Her name is Grace Brewster Murray. Later, the world will know her as Grace Hopper. From a young age, Grace is endlessly curious. At the age of 7, she wants to know how an alarm clock works. So she takes one apart, then another, then another. By the time her mother notices, Grace has disassembled 7 alarm clocks in the house. Her parents do not punish her. Instead, they encourage her curiosity. This is unusual for a girl in the early 20th century. Grace studies mathematics and physics at Vassar College. Later, she earns a PhD in mathematics from Yale University one of very few women to do so at that time. She becomes a mathematics professor at Vassar. Her life seems set on a quiet academic path. Then, in December 1941, everything changes. Japan attacks Pearl Harbor. The United States enters World War II. Grace wants to serve her country. She tries to join the United States Navy. At first, the Navy rejects her. She is considered too old, 34, and too thin for military standards. But Grace does not give up. She insists. Eventually, in 1943, the Navy accepts her into a special program for women called WAVES. After training, Lieutenant Grace Hopper receives an assignment that will change her life and the history of computing. She is sent to Harvard University to work on a machine called the Mark I. The Mark I is one of the first large-scale computers ever built. It is 50 feet long, 8 feet tall, and weighs 5 tons. It contains over 3,000 mechanical relays, switches that click constantly, making a sound like a room full of knitting needles. When Grace arrives, the Navy gives her a 600-page manual and tells her, "Figure it out. There is a war to win." Grace becomes one of the very first programmers of the Mark I. She writes complex mathematical instructions for military calculations, without any formal training in programming, because, at that time, nobody had any. The field did not exist yet. One day in September 1947, the Mark II, a newer version of the machine, stops working. Grace and her team search for the problem. They check the relays, the mechanical switches inside the machine. Inside one of the relays, they find something unexpected. A moth, a small flying insect, is trapped between the metal contacts. The moth was physically blocking the electrical connection. That is why the machine stopped. Grace's team removes the moth carefully and tapes it into their logbook, the official notebook where they record everything that happens with the machine. Next to the moth, someone writes, "First actual case of a bug being found." Now, the word bug already existed before this moment. Engineers had used it for decades to describe mechanical problems. But this event makes the term famous in computing and gives us a literal, physical bug as the origin story. Today, that logbook, with the actual moth still taped inside, is preserved at the Smithsonian National Museum of American History. After the war, Grace continues working with computers, and she starts to think about a problem that bothers her deeply. At that time, programming a computer means writing instructions in pure numbers, long, confusing sequences of ones and zeros. It is slow. It is difficult. Only a small group of specialists can do it. Grace has a radical idea. What if we could program computers using words, actual English words, instead of numbers? Most experts at the time think this is impossible. They tell her, computers only understand numbers. They cannot understand language. Grace does not accept that answer. She begins to build something nobody had built before, a compiler. Her compiler, called A0, translates instructions written in something close to English into the machine code that computers actually need. It is a bridge between human language and machine language. This idea is revolutionary. For the first time, you do not need to think like a machine to program a machine. The machine adapts to you, not the other way around. Grace continues improving her idea for years. Eventually, she helps develop a language called COBOL, Common Business-Oriented Language. COBOL uses English words like add, subtract, and if, instead of complicated mathematical symbols. Banks, governments, and large companies adopt COBOL around the world. Even today, more than 70 years later, COBOL still runs many banking systems. Grace also pushes hard to standardize programming languages, so that a program written for one computer could run on a different computer from a different manufacturer. Before her work, this idea sounds almost impossible. After her work, it becomes standard practice across the entire industry. Grace Hopper continues serving in the Navy for decades. She becomes famous for her energy, her humor, and her direct way of explaining complex ideas. She often carries a piece of wire about 30 centimeters long. She uses it to explain a nanosecond, the time it takes light to travel that exact distance. She retires from the Navy in 1986 at the age of 79, the oldest active duty officer in the United States military at that time. She dies in 1992 at the age of 85. In 2016, President Barack Obama awards her, posthumously, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the United States. Today, a United States Navy ship is named after her, the USS Hopper. A woman who took apart alarm clocks as a child grew up to take apart the barrier between humans and machines. Let's review the 8 key words from today's episode. Compiler, a program that translates human instructions into machine code. Grace Hopper built one of the first compilers in history. Debug, to find and fix errors in a program. The word comes from the real moth found inside the Mark II computer. Naval officer, a person with rank in a navy. Grace Hopper served as a naval officer for over 40 years, retiring as a rear admiral. Syntax, the rules for arranging words and symbols correctly. Grace Hopper wanted programming syntax to look like normal English. Standardize, to make something follow the same rules everywhere. Grace Hopper worked to standardize programming languages across different computers. Prototype, the first working version of something. Grace Hopper worked on some of the earliest computer prototypes in American history. Relay, a mechanical electrical switch. The Mark II contained thousands of relays, and one of them once trapped a real moth. Legacy, what a person leaves for the future. Grace Hopper's legacy includes the compiler, COBOL, and the popular origin story of the word bug. That is the story of Grace Hopper, naval officer, mathematician, and the woman who taught computers to understand human language. A girl who took apart alarm clocks. A woman the Navy almost rejected. A pioneer whose ideas still run inside banks around the world today. Today's phrase to remember is, she never accepted the word impossible. Grace Hopper heard the word impossible many times in her life, and every time, she proved it wrong. Repeat after me. She never accepted the word impossible. One more time. She never accepted the word impossible. In the next episode, we meet John von Neumann, the man whose ideas defined the basic architecture used inside almost every computer ever built. Leave a comment in English. Have you ever found a bug in something, a program, a website, an app? What happened? See you in episode 7. This is Charles, and this is English Podcast and Tech.